Welcome to the Millennial Hawken. This episode is not an actual play episode. This episode is a faction spotlight episode, the first of many. In this episode, we will be covering the Royal Union Empire. The Royal Union Empire is more often referred to as RU than the Royal Union Empire and RUE combined. Whether this is by their enemies or just because it's easier to say RU and it's faster to say RU is not quite known. The RUE is a monarchy. There are several kings and one high king. The high king oversees basically whatever the high king wishes to oversee and has the final say on all laws, edicts, and ordinances, no matter what level of government has laid down those laws, edicts, and ordinances. They have veto rights and adjustment rights, except when it comes to the rulings of a previous high king, in which case they must have a moot with all the other kings in order to overrule a previous ruling from either themselves or a previous high king. The other kings rule industries and branches of the military. The only royal titles are king and high king. The titles are gender neutral. The spouse of a king is always a queen, but a queen will not take control if a king dies. Therefore, queen is not a royal title. Some examples of other kings are Rafaela Cordova, leader of the RBI, the Royal Bureau of Investigation. King Zendaida Quesada, commander of SSO, Special Space Ops. King Emilio Gavilan, owner of SFC, Space Flight Commercial. The firstborn son is always the next in line to become king, but if the current ruler has no sons, then their firstborn daughter is the next in line. Because of previous attempts of gender change perceived as only being to take the throne, a previous high king had ruled that this goes off of sex and not gender, genetic sex. Therefore, gender change and sex change do not allow a female to take precedence over a male. There is high controversy on this subject, and the current ruling high king wishes to change this as she happens to be female. Recently, the RUE has been expanded in the sector. Tensions are rising as other factions do not know if this is because they wish to start a war or simply because they wish to expand to the free worlds. This may spark a war simply because the faction known as Colonists' Rights are probably going to push back against the Imperial expansion. This just in, the RUE's kings are now in vote in order to change the long-standing rule that the firstborn son becomes king or high king. They are trying to rewrite the rules so that the high king, or any king for that matter, can be replaced by just their eldest child. What do you think about this, Johnny? Well, you see, I think this is interesting and long overdue. This has been a problem for years, generations really, especially after a high king Augustus Intro decided that he was going to make it to where it was going off of genetic sex because he felt like his daughter was going through a gender change in order to take the throne from him. Oh, well, that's right. I remember reading about that in history class. Well, that's interesting. Like, there's obviously been queens before, but will this make it harder for someone to become the king or high king simply because they'll have more competition and they'll have to watch their back for more of their siblings to take it from them? Well, if you ask me, absolutely. You see, currently, the eldest son of the current high king had been, I don't like to use the word assassination, but it was, unfortunately, obviously an assassination. I can't deny that. And, this will cause the possibility of even more assassinations, because as a female, you will be able to take the throne if you're the eldest. Now, if your parents have only one daughter, and that's you, and you're third in line because you have 3 older brothers, there's actually an incentive for there to be more oh, what's the word? It's the word for when you're killing a sibling. It's something side. I can't remember it. Anyways, that's more likely now, unfortunately, and I don't like that, not one bit. Well, I definitely agree with that, and well, unfortunately, our time's up for talking about this subject. Otherwise, we might actually be fired because we're not supposed to cover this too often. So let's move back on to sports. Who wants to hear about some nice spike ball tournaments? I know I do. The Millennial Hawken is DM'd by Josh, using the first edition Stars Without Number rules. John Huey Shepard is played by Ed. Sean Polo is played by Mao. Jerome Cable is played by Knight. And Ave Maria is played by Joker.
The podcast Sword or Sorcery RPG can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. You can find more things Sword or Sorcery on swordorsorcery.com, the Sword or Sorcery YouTube channel, Sword or Sorcery on Twitter, and the Sword or Sorcery Facebook page. If you would like to leave us a tip, you can go to patreon.com/swordorsorcery, or if a monthly tip is not something you want to do, you can always leave us a copy on ko-fi.com/sword or sorcery.